everyone, welcome to another video. My name is Dahlia. This is Novel Idea. Come to you this holiday season with a book wrap-up review. All of the books that I read. Finally took the plunge and purchased a Kindle game changer. The convenience is basically unparalleled. I'm currently reading The Undocumented Americans by, this is gonna be messed up, but Carla Cornejo Villavicencio, I believe. Despite the battery power not being as good as like a traditional book, I've noticed that I've read way more with a Kindle. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. For those of you that know me and know my channel pretty well, it comes as no surprise that I love Elena Ferrante. I literally read everything that she comes out with. When I heard of this novel called the Copenhagen trilogy by Tove Ditlevsen, when I heard about this book, I was stoked because it's been compared to Elena Ferrante. Let me tell you that I can confirm that is true. This book took me for a loop. It was everything. It was so readable, first of all. It has that Elena Ferrante honesty. You know, it has that unapologetic, say what's on your mind. If you're gonna say something, you may as well say it. Similar to Elena Ferrante, incredibly perceptive. So the Copenhagen trilogy, what a read. It's made up of childhood, which is like her memoir, or I should say section of the novel where she's discussing her childhood, her dedication to being a writer. She wants to be a poet. She has a lot of interesting things to say about the state of childhood, and like a lot of it isn't positive. It's entertaining, like definitely. She has this like giant ambition of becoming a poet. She's happiest when she's writing. Like that's obviously her safe space. It's her place where she can escape. She writes beautiful poetry, which is included throughout, sort of peppered throughout the book. There's childhood, youth, and dependency. Each book kind of grapples with a different life plot point, if you will. Youth, she is pretty set on finding a husband and having kids. Things really turn south, and I don't want to ruin it. It becomes kind of dark and it gets pretty tragic. It's actually quite a short book given that it spans pretty much her entire life. I really recommend this. If you like Elena Ferrante, I think that's all you need to know to really like feel confident going into this book. It's a page turner, and it will probably be one of the best books I think that I've read this year. So I really recommend it if you haven't checked it out. It is dark, but like, do we read books because they're happy? I don't think we do. The past couple months, I've been getting into memoirs, I would say, pretty heavily. One of the popular memoirs of this year is Crying in Mart by Michelle Zauner. Michelle Zauner, for those of you that don't know her, is mostly known for her music career. I believe her stage name is Japanese Breakfast. Michelle's story, she is born from a Korean mother and an American father. The family moved to Eugene, Oregon when she was a child. Follows her relationship with her mother, who was diagnosed and sadly passed away from cancer. And it's also about food. There's a lot of food talk. Michelle uses food as a way of kind of healing and coming to terms with her mother's death. Finds this YouTube channel of this woman who cooks Korean food, and she begins following this YouTube channel because it is a reminder of her mom. Another thing that I really enjoyed about the novel is when you're reading it, you really do get the feeling or the sense that she is actually processing, dealing with her grief throughout the writing process. It was like quite a moving and tender story. I really enjoyed reading this book. How she begins to see the sacrifice that her mom made for her. My like personal attraction to these stories often has to do with these like feats of resilience and self-sacrifice and the perseverance that these people display when having to move to a new country. Michelle is talking about how her mom had sent her a pair of boots, but that her mother had actually worn out so that by the time Michelle had received them, they'd be comfortable for her to wear. It's such a small example, but her mom shouldered the burden of discomfort so that her daughter didn't have to. And I think that that's really the point that looms large in the book, is that her mom had to overcome a lot of adversity so that she could provide her daughter with an opportunity to not, first of all, not have to go through things, but also an opportunity to thrive and flourish in a new country. It's very tender, it's very heartfelt, and I really enjoyed the reading experience. So if you haven't checked it out, it's a great book, it's a great memoir. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It was truly a pleasure to read. There's another new fave author alert on this channel. I will give to Sigrid Nunez because I have read 2 of her books recently, The Friend and also What Are You Going Through, which I believe came out just this year. The Friend. Let's talk about The Friend. What a great book. If you're not into like dark novels, death and suicide, you're probably not gonna like my book recommendations. The story begins at a memorial service for a famous novelist who has committed suicide. He left a Great Dane, a dog, who now does not have a home. The main narrator ends up inheriting the Great Dane named Apollo, takes it upon herself to take care of this dog and bring it home with her to her apartment in Brooklyn. There's a lot of commentary on the state of writing these days, where they all sort of seem to have a lot of animosity towards each other. Besides that, friendship and grief and death and loyalty. Her writing, it's dry, but it's funny. Absolutely loved the writing style and the vibe and the tone that she sets. It's like really readable and hilarious. I also read What Are You Going Through by Sigrid Nunez. That was no disappointment as well. Like, who is this author and why haven't I heard of her before? What Are You Going Through? This book follows, again, a writer, an unnamed writer, who ends up having interesting arrangement with a different friend who is also a writer and professor. This friend of hers is dying from cancer, has asked her to help her, being with her when she, and assisting her in choosing to die on her own terms. So essentially dying with dignity. She has made all the arrangements and just needs her to agree to it. It's actually a really fascinating plot. The way that Sigrid Nunez writes about it isn't just linear, like she kind of goes off on different tangents. This point has brought the two of them to a closeness that they had not had for a long time, not trying to pull sadness from you, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. The general tone and the underlying kind of like dread that she exudes in her writing is just, for me, perfect. I love it. The title, What Are You Going Through? Sigrid Nunez says there's some French philosopher. Basically, she says that best expression of human empathy and concern is when you ask your neighbor, what are you going through? That question is one of the most humane and empathic questions you can ask someone. This book deals with her being with her friend and trying to understand what she's going through, how she can be of service and how she can help. Both books, The Friend and What Are You Going Through, are really beautiful contemplations on friendship, loyalty, understanding the bounds of friendship and what you're willing to do for a friend, even when it makes you uncomfortable or even when it's seeming like a disservice to you. The friend, she takes the burden of caring for this dog. Her and the dog end up having a really beautiful relationship, and through the dog, she's able to kind of come to terms with her grief. In What Are You Going Through, I think she provides a lot of comfort to her friend in a really difficult time. Besides that, takes probably her own comfort in being able to be there. If you haven't read Sigrid Nunez, I really highly recommend it. She's such an enjoyable writer to read her works, and I'm definitely going to be reading some of her back works. So yeah, so that's a little reading wrap up. I've read more, but I'm going to stop here for brevity's sake. Hope you're all doing well. Let me know what you're reading. I'd love to know, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Comment down below, subscribe, do all the things.